When you've played World of Warships Legends for 7 years and have something like 20,000 battles under your belt, you sometimes find yourself loading into a match and you think, I just really don't want to play this match. That's what happened to me when I loaded into this match a week or two ago in the Legendary Tier German battleship Mecklenburg. This battle almost found its way into my video review of the ship, but I held it back and I debated for a while on whether or not I wanted to talk about it and show it, but I decided we would do it because what you're going to see here in the beginning of the battle, I load in here, I see there's no destroyers, I know we have no spotting. I've probably been trying to test this ship for a series of about 5 battles prior to this and maybe had nothing but blowouts or mediocre results. So I was a little bit frustrated and I was like, well, I don't want to play this match. This is not going to be good for review. We're missing one of the most important ship classes in this game in that there are no DDs. So what value is this going to be? Well, because of that thought process, I decide we're just going to drive straight first into the island. We have no intelligence data here. We have no way of knowing what could possibly shoot at us once we get spotted. So that could very well mean a quick trip back to port. But maybe there's some value in that in testing out how tanky the Mecklenburg can be. Also, I have this thing where I love to build into concealment on my battleships, and we're not spotted until 12.3 kilometers, which is going to come in handy momentarily. You'll see what I mean. But we get a little bit of intelligence data as we drive face first into the cap, like an average German battleship main. There's a Preußen out there, there's an Alaska, and I don't even think that is everything that's on this flank yet. I think we're probably missing a thing or two, and I can tell you there is a Worcester to the left-hand side of the screen behind that island. You see him now. He just takes his first shot and gets spotted. We've been lit on fire twice by the Alaska's initial HE salvo, which is a great roll of the dice for him, not so much for me. And then we make an even bigger mistake. It probably wasn't a good idea to drive face first into this cap in the first place, but we make the situation a lot worse by managing to beach ourselves on an island halfway broadside in front of a Preußen, who, even though that ship got nerfed, it's still like the Death Star, and we're not exactly angled in such a way that we can mitigate the AP damage he's going to send our way. He's easily going to be able to get full pens on our broadside. Probably won't citadel us because the turtleback on this hull is effective against citadels, at least when you're not in a turn. But, well, we started this with 85,800 HP. And now we're down to 22,000, so that's about 3/4 of our health, maybe a little bit more than that. However, we are about to be in a good situation here. You can see Preußen, for one reason or another, is kiting away. Maybe that's not too bad of a choice on his part. He is taking a lot of damage from the center of the map. You can see we've got some teammates there, and he's sort of crossfired between them, us, and this Indiana here. But the problem is, this Indiana has now presented himself as the primary target for all of these ships. And Indiana, for his part, I suppose, is a fairly tanky ship. He's got gigantic superstructure, like we do, but he does have 38mm upper belt armor and a 38mm deck, which is a useful value, but not if you're being shot at by 4 different ships. He goes down, and that is an indication of what our fate would have been had we not managed to, I suppose, hide ourselves in this little cove over here. We've managed to find a position where we're not spotted because this island is between us, the Worcester, and the Alaska, and Preußen and the other enemy battleship are just too far away. But we do have Alaska walking in, and he is going to spot us over the island. 7 seconds left to go on this cap. We've got the HE chambered, so we shoot it at Preußen, and I think maybe we end up getting a fire. 2 fires, in fact, which is nice. Both Preußen and Alaska seem to be not interested in us. Okay, I take that back. Alaska shoots. His AP is pretty scary. I think we both actually have the same sized guns, but I would say his AP is better, in spite of the fact that, well, you've seen Mecklenburgs can hit like a truck. Alaska, though, gets improved pen angles. We don't, but we still managed to hit him for 6K there when he's stern on to us. Not quite sure how that happens. But also, one thing I think I failed to fully appreciate in my video review of the Mecklenburg is that. You see how the Alaska shells come in and they temporarily knock out our two rear turrets? This seems to happen all the time in Mecklenburg. Its modules seem to be uniquely squishy. I've had the guns and the torpedo tubes taken out temporarily and permanently so many times I can't even tell you. Happens at any angle, any distance, it's just kind of a crapshoot and it's really irritating. However, we did manage to rep the turrets, they're back online, they're reloaded, and we used them for a little bit of revenge against the Alaska. There is our second kill of the game. We're only up to 90,000 damage done, as Worcester gets a fire there. And we've got him to worry about. He's at full HP. Can we reverse and get some AP into his broadside? I don't know that he's fully protected by that island. We, I suppose, hit some of our shells against this island, but some have clearance. And yeah, one overpen, or two overpens rather, and one full penetration, nothing else. Not great. Meanwhile, the next battleship contestant on the blue team steps up for the push. This time, I think it's some Italian battleship, Vittorio Veneto maybe? Well, he's going to push straight into the Worcester. He's got Indiana over here, who thankfully goes behind the island. We're about on our way back to port, if that guy is still able to shoot at us. Only 10,000 HP, I suppose, counting because of the heal. Worcester comes around, lights us up briefly, and takes a shot, but the fire that he lit moments ago is now extinguished, which means our detectability goes back down to the 12.3 kilometers I have it built for. And once again, the fact that we build for that saves us from demise. Indiana comes around the corner, and he doesn't spot us. I think if we didn't have, of course, the two inspirations here are a fully maxed Kondo and Azerlane Sovetski Rossiya. I think with just Kondo, we would still be in the 12 km range and we would be fine. But without Kondo as an inspiration at all, I'm sure the detect on this thing is like 13 point something kilometers, enough for the Indiana to have spotted us in that same situation, and we would be sunk. But we're not. And so we get to kite away. Obviously, we don't want to push in here. We're only at 12,000 HP. There's the Indiana there, the Worcester behind the island, and then that other cruiser over there, 8 kilometers away, is a Napoli. And I'm sure if you've seen any of my videos on Napoli, you know exactly why you don't want to push into that cruiser. But I guess USS Indiana over here didn't get that memo. And somehow, by some miracle, the Italian battleship, which I'm just going to say is oh no, it was a Victoria. He survived up until this point where he just got taken out. And I think the friendly Indiana is next on that list. You just don't want to push yourself into a superior number of enemy ships for really no reason. I mean, if you look at this flank, why would we push it? We've already won it in the sense that we've taken the cap. I've got the capture ribbon up there next to the 120,000 damage to show it. So when you win the cap and the enemy's outside of the cap, you don't need to push into the enemy. They need to push into the cap, and then you need to shoot them as they push in. It's just, standard tactics. If you do the other thing, then you're just playing to their advantage. And there goes the friendly battleship. So all of a sudden, something that looked like it could turn into a blowout was, at least for a moment, a 4v4. However, take note of the three friendly cruisers between the Alpha and Bravo caps. Between all three of them, they managed to take out the enemy Schroeder that was in the Alpha area, I believe. And now both Alpha and Bravo are free from enemy presence. So the cruisers get to enter that and take the capture circles, which is going to be good because the points are very close. The enemy team is slightly ahead of us, but if they all push into this part of the map in order to go for the Charlie cap and allow our friendly cruisers to take both Bravo and Alpha, and as long as they don't sink me immediately and get a point swing from that, well, if we take two of the capture circles, we're going to have the majority of caps, even if they undo my work to take the Charlie cap. We're going to be accruing more points than they are every tick. So we'll go ahead, as long as we don't sink. So that is, I suppose, the primary goal here, especially when we only have 23,000 HP. Luckily for us, Napoli waits until we shoot ineffectively at the Worcester with our HE when we probably should have shot AP. Speaking of which, apparently Napoli AP can temporarily take out one of these turrets, even in the front of the ship when he shoots at the rear of it. So, yeah, very, very bad survivability on these modules. And also, Wargaming, if you're watching this video, in the next update, could you make it so that it is impossible to permanently break these modules for the duration of a whole battle? It's not a fun mechanic. If our turrets got blacked out there and we lost access to them for the rest of this match, not a good experience. I don't think it really adds anything positive to the game. Just make it so that the modules can get taken out temporarily, like when they turn red right now. You can, I suppose, have some sort of debate of how long should that last, how long should they be temporarily taken out. But I think they always need to come back online after a certain amount of time. And if they made that change, you would still be able to, tactically target somebody's guns in order to disable them if you're pushing into them and trying to brawl. That would still be a valid tactical option. It's just, I don't think you should permanently lose access to your armaments for the majority of the game, especially if you're, imagine something like Jean Bart or Richelieu. If both of your front turrets get taken out in those ships, what are you going to do? You just become a extra large jumbo torpedo that you've got to ram into the enemy ships? Not a good position to be in. Or if you're maybe a torpedo boat destroyer and all your torpedo tubes get permanently broken, also a bad place to be. I think we really need to reconsider how taking out modules work in World of Warships Legends. Let me know what you think in the comments, just a bit of a thought. Anyway, it's a 4v3 in favor of the Blues. The cruisers have succeeded in taking both Alpha and Bravo. Indiana is the last remaining battleship on the enemy team. He is well on his way back to port. We should absolutely have the AP chambered here too. I don't know why we don't. But if we did, we might have taken out Indiana there. Instead, we just get a double fire, I suppose, which he promptly DCPs. And he's got so little HP left that the friendly cruisers focusing him, they're going to be able to send him back to port pretty quickly. So we don't have to worry about angling against him. We just have to worry about Napoli and Worcester. And, well, we just don't have enough HP to sustain this kind of thing between the Napoli secondaries and the Worcester HE. Both of those are just going to melt us. We do, ironically, end up permanently losing our torpedoes. Unfortunate, maybe we could have sent them at the Napoli, but we go down to, I think it was the Worcester, and his shells. However, we end the battle with 148,442 damage. And if you recall, earlier on in that sequence where I was stuck in between those islands in the Charlie Cap, I think we had done maybe 50,000 damage up until that point when we were reduced to like 11, 12,000 HP. And then the Preußen kited away and we went dark and were able to heal up. Well, I think that is important to consider because you can tell me, and you'd be right, that I shouldn't have put myself in that position in the first place. But just imagine if I had this same build with my 12.3 kilometer detect, and I utilized a little bit of, the brain to do things like pre-plan my movements, consider where should I put my ship to be the most effective. Having that kind of detect will allow you to put your battleship in advantageous positions where you can take advantage of broadsides. And that's probably something that's especially important for the Mecklenburg. Since it has small guns that don't really overmatch anything, you really do need to look for the broadsides to get the AP on target against something that it can pen and deal catastrophic damage to. And building really heavily into concealment, like I do, can help you do that. And then, on a side note, if you make a dumb mistake like I did and push into a bunch of enemy ships that you can't even see, well, concealment, I suppose, in some scenarios can bail you out of that. Anyway, the friendly cruiser that we were following, I think a Des Moines maybe, he goes down. But it doesn't really matter. His kiting away from this cap has pulled the enemy team sort of out of position. There's not enough time left in the game for the Napoli or the Worcester to come toward Charlie. And since these cruisers, who really did the lion's share of work in winning this game, GG to all three of them, Since they took the 2 caps, we're ahead on points. We don't even need this cap, really. I think it's fine for them to enter it, of course, and contest it, but we win the battle. There's just not enough time for the Napoli or the Worcester to do anything to these guys. And so the Alaska says GG. Definitely GG to that Alaska and whatever cruiser that is that's in that smoke screen. GG to the Des Moines as well. But on the leaderboard, with our 148,000 damage done, we still managed to get top billing at 2,500 base XP. Definitely not the best game you've ever seen in a battleship. However, I think this was an interesting one just because it's another example of why I think building into concealment on battleships is valuable, and also why if you make a foolish choice like I did in the beginning of a match, you probably should still at least try to play the game instead of just giving yourself up. I suppose I could have done that. I could have just driven straight in, given myself up, and moved on to the next match. That's what I wanted to do initially. But, we turn it around, we turn the tide, and we win. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.